morning. Which brings me up to the question, you probably don't have a typical work day, do you?
No.
All right, so let's talk about this morning. You get up and you got this EDC meeting. What went on at the EDC meeting?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of just updates on what's going on, and I'm more there as a community partner, so I kind of give a spiel on, hey, here's what our chamber's doing and what we got coming up and that type of stuff. But I don't want to speak for their staff at all or overstep there by any means, but it's a really good group, and I've really enjoyed being able to be a part of it. And I think the EDC staff is top notch, so they're really, really sharp people.
Well, there's a lot of interesting and exciting stuff going on in Chatham County. I think we can all see that. What do you see? And again, we've got Winfast possibly coming in and Moncure, and you've got Wolfspeed coming in on your side of the county. What's your interaction? What are you hearing on Wolfspeed? I know they're building quick. So what's the scoop with Wolfspeed in Siler City?
Hey, it's going fast. It's going very fast. So it's kind of like every time you go by, it's like, oh man, it just feels like it's grown. So. But I know that they topped out recently, so now they start doing all the infill and that type of stuff. But I don't have a ton of updates on their timeline. I know they're a little ahead of schedule, last I heard, but they're full force ahead, that's for sure. So they'll be completed here before too long.
What are some of the good things you're seeing going on in Siler City, not just during the time that you've been a Chamber of Commerce CEO, but over the last few years?
It's great to see a lot of life coming back. So it's very exciting, because when I was a kid going through Siler City, I mean, it was a happening place. So and then I got to witness kind of a little bit of recession, you could say, in Siler City, and got a little stagnant for a while, and then Mount Air comes back in and pumps a big piece of life into it and provides a lot of jobs, and now you've got a lot of excitement. There's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of, hey, what's coming, what's going to happen. It's definitely perked up a lot. So that's very exciting to see.
I asked you about what was one of the biggest smiles that put on your face with the Wake Up Wednesday that you're doing. What's some of the things that put the biggest smile on your face with you being the CEO over at the Chamber?
Just connections and relationships. So building those and building connections with folks, and I'm kind of a habitual learner, so I like to learn what people are doing. I like to learn about what they're doing. I like to learn how they operate, because I think you can learn something from anybody. And hearing how different businesses have come to where they're at now, what they've done, what challenges they've overcome, and kind of where they see things going, what they see the future as, I think that stuff is extremely interesting. So, for me, that's very fulfilling to be able to hear that, but also connect it with other folks. And, I can have a conversation with somebody and say, hey, you should reach out to so-and-so on the other side of town. They've been through this, they know this, they can help you with it. So, for me, that's a very rewarding part of it. And then it's also very personal for me at the same time, because we live in the community. I mean, we've been here for a long time. My kids are growing up here, and I have zero plans of moving anywhere. So, there's a lot at stake at the same time, and there's a lot that we've got to make sure we put some care into in developing our community, and helping grow it, and make sure it grows responsibly at the same time. So, I don't take it lightly. I take the responsibility very heavily on being involved in the community, and what kind of reputation are we going to build, and how are we going to represent Western Chatham County as a whole in the coming years.
You mentioned you had heard of some businesses overcoming some challenges. Can you share a specific? Can you tell us about a specific challenge that someone's facing and was able to overcome?
One of the ones that I've heard recently is kind of just the workplace culture and employment retainment. And, it was a larger business, so to say. I don't want to name them because I don't want
HIPAA regulations.
Yeah, I don't want to,
Right.
spill any beans, but they were telling me how they basically flipped their whole culture within the workplace upside down, and their retainment has gone up significantly. Their safe hours have gone up significantly. Their production has gone up significantly, and it's all because of how they approached employees and how they managed that and their relationships that they built with their employees rather than just driving a bottom line. They were driving more buy-in and input from employees. And when I heard it, I was like, okay, that relates a lot to my coaching days and what I learned there. So I was like, that's to me, a big light went off. I was like, oh, this works across a lot of spectrums. So that was one that really stood out. And, I think that's something that we can continue because workforce is a challenge, but also retainment's a big challenge for folks now too. So if you can build that culture within that business where folks really feel valued, they're more often going to stay and they're going to like where they work. And, they're going to be more productive when they come into work every day excited about it and ready to get started. So to me, that was a major one there that I was like, we need to push that. We need to push that sense.
You mentioned coaching experience and some of the stuff you learned when you were a coach. Why don't you tell us about a little bit about your coaching background, and then tell us how some of that stuff that you learned as a coach you're applying now as CEO of the Siler City Area Chamber.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of goes back to my playing days, really. And I graduated from JM, and I was okay at baseball. I was all right. So, but
how were you at track and field?
Not my sport.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Not my sport.
Baseball.
Baseball was it. I really enjoyed basketball too, but the future was in baseball. So had some opportunities and some offers at quite a few schools, and I landed on a small school in Tennessee because when I went out there, it felt like home. It was a very comfortable place, and I was like, this is cool, and it just felt right. So, but at the same time, it was a newer program that hadn't really had success yet. So, the opportunity that was there for me was to go in and really make an impact, and that's what I was wanting to do. I didn't want to go somewhere and sit on the bench. Like I wanted to go somewhere and really drive some success. So going there, they won 6 games a year before I got there. And if you know college baseball, they play 52 in a season. So you can imagine how many losses there were. So my freshman year, we won 21, and then my junior year, we won 40. We went 41-17, and when I graduated, it was. We were the winningest class in school history at that point, and I had a big hand in that because I was, I set the record for the number of games played at that point, and it got broken the next year, but whatever.
Yeah, but you set the.
I
was gonna say you set the groundwork for that to happen.
Yeah, but the biggest thing I learned was the culture piece in that, because we had my senior year, we had a kind of a clique of guys that didn't want to buy into what we were doing, and we made the decision with about 3 or 4 weeks left to go in the season to let them go. And we didn't have a catcher at that point. If you know baseball, a catcher is an extremely important position. So we just plugged some guys in and we said, let's ride, let's do it. And it was the best we played all year. And it was, a light bulb went off for me there. It was like, okay, maybe the culture that the leadership and having everybody going in the right direction is way more important than talent. And I had a plan out of college to study physical therapy and go into that, but I had a couple prerequisites I still needed to get done, and while I was doing them that summer, I started coaching a baseball team out in Tennessee, and just a high school age travel team, and just had an absolute blast with it. Me and one of my buddies on my team, we traveled the Southeast going to tournaments and doing that, and then the door opened to Jordan Matthews, and they actually called me back then and said, hey, do you want to come back and coach? And I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So I took on the head coaching position at JM at 22 years old.
For baseball,
and I was coaching guys that I knew, which was kind of weird, and they were only 4 years younger than me.
Did they give you a hard time?
No, not really. They were a great group of guys. But it was, you know, I kind of went into it with more of a, this is the way we're going to do things. And we had some success that, you know, my 2 years there. My second year, we went to the third round of the playoffs. And my first year, I think we won the most regular season games that James had ever won at that point. We had some real talent on the team. And the guys were, they meshed really well. And then you know, I love college baseball. So I was like, I want to go coach college baseball. So I got an opportunity down at Pfeiffer to be a volunteer assistant. And I was like, talked to my wife about it, and I think she thought I was half crazy, but she agreed to it.
Did she ask you how much money you're going to make?
Yeah, and it was zero. So I drove an hour one way just for an opportunity to coach college baseball.
Right.
And I got to work under Dusty Blake there, who's the pitching coach for St. Louis Cardinals now. But that was a big shaper of me learning how to, I guess, connect with people more. And that had a huge impact on that, because I had to learn how to really build a personal relationship with folks that, like, I don't know well. And I come from different areas, different backgrounds, and, you know, we had to really build that to build trust. Because, you know, I was at that point coaching outfielders and catchers, and those were positions that I didn't play. So
what position did you play?
I played first and I pitched. So I got to do both in college, which was also unique and pretty cool.
So you did those two positions, and then you're coaching positions that you have never played on a formal team.
Yeah, correct. And I was also still young, so I'm coaching guys that are 3-4 years younger than me. So they were like, hey, you didn't play at a big school, you didn't play these positions, and you're only like 3 years older than us. Why should we listen to you? So that was a big obstacle that I had to learn how to overcome.
So how did you overcome that obstacle?
You know, a lot of it was just humility and learning how to be humble with folks and listen to them. And what we ended up doing was I gave them a lot of input on what we were going to do at practice, how they wanted it to function, and then we'd provide guardrails for them at that point. And it had a big impact on developing that trust. And those guys really got bought in at that point, and it was cool to see that. But also, like, I'd go eat dinner with them some nights, and, you know, we'd sit down, we'd have a lot of conversations that had nothing to do with baseball. And you know, I think that translates to shaping kind of how I am now as well. But that was a big growth period for me at that point. So those 4 years, and ended up working my way up to the recruiting coordinator position. So it was fun to do that too. I loved that part of it, going watching games, and being able to evaluate, and you know, get to meet a lot of folks all over the country.
Let me toss a question at you. You don't have to answer it, but you did mention your wife, and the fact that you let her know that you were going to be a volunteer coach. If you don't mind me asking again, you don't have to answer this question. How did you and your wife meet?
Well, we met in college. So she played basketball, and at the school that I played baseball at. So it's a small school, so you know everybody out there. So we met there, and, you know, we've been married 10 years now. We got 3 kids, and it's been great. She's my right hand and my rock. So she's a big part of what we do.
It sounds like you've been developing to, hey, the skills that I've learned and the talents that I have, I want to be able to make a big impact. Is that one of the reasons you're taking on the challenge of being CEO of the Chamber of Commerce? And what specific things have you seen happening? Or where do you see the Chamber and what your involvement with the Chamber is 3, 4, 5 years down the road?
Yeah, that's probably the number one driver for me. It's like, I want to make an impact in our community. You know, this is where I grew up. This is home. So I want to make an impact there, and I want to make it substantial. And you know, I think our Western Siler County needs a specific focus, and you know, I've seen it for years. So, you know, I don't think that's a secret either. And being able to provide that impact has been really cool, and it's been very rewarding. So, you know, future-wise, I'm excited to see how it grows. and we've had a very good response coming into the scene of things, and you know, a lot of that is we're just trying to just build relationships as best we can. So you know, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. You know, that's one thing I've learned, is that the only constant is change. So you know, we're going to have to keep adapting with how Siler City changes and how our community and surrounding communities continue to change too. So, but I think there's a great potential there, and I think it's much needed. And you know, I'm excited to be able to just get to take part in it like that. That's for me. I'm very grateful for that, and a lot of gratitude to, you know, the folks that, you know, let me come in and talk to them and hang out with them, just build those connections.
Being a county resident your entire life, are you finding that as an important component in what you're doing? Because it sounds like hey, we've got this change coming, we've got to be ready for it, but you're also looking to, for lack of a better word, protect some of the stuff that Western Chatham is just known for.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that mix going out? What kind of feedback are you getting from both the old timers and the newcomers?
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's change, you're going to hear resistance to it. You know, it doesn't matter what change it is, there's going to be resistance to it. So, you know, I wouldn't really call it protecting the old ways. I think it's more utilizing our strengths. So, you know, these are things that have developed over time because it's something that our community is good at. And, you know, it's something that's been a strength for our community. So it's more of, why don't we continue to build these strengths while also grow and, you know, bring in some new stuff and some new ideas. And, you know, it's very nuanced with every community. Every community is different. So, you know, for our little section of, you know, our country and our state, our county, you know, I think there is some strengths there with our agriculture side, our small business side, just the small town feel. And I think it's got a lot of potential there to continue to strengthen and grow as well. And it's going to change some too. So you're going to see, you know, some differences come in, and you're going to see different things come in. You might see, you know, a change of the landscape a little bit, but, you know, as far as just building on the strengths that we have, I think that's important, and you don't need to lose sight of what those strengths have been for years.
So you're growing on those strengths. What was the interview process like for you? It sounded like this was kind of, there was a lot of pre-work done until you became the official CEO. I mean, did they ask you that question that everybody hates to answer? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Or how'd that process go about to where you're sitting here right now, or you started sitting in that CEO position back in June?
Yeah, I don't think I got that question. That question always makes me laugh. It's like, you know, looking at my short history, I mean, I don't really have a huge amount of life experience yet, but even then, every step I was like, well, I had a different vision for where I was going to be in 5 years, and it's changed every time. So, you know, as far as that goes, it was more just you know, the group kind of reached out and said, hey, we've got an opportunity, would you be interested in talking about it? And I was like, okay. And my first question was, what's a chamber of commerce? Like, I had no idea. And, you know, I never dealt with it, and never had any coincides with it or anything. So, I started doing research. Like I said, I learn a lot. So I tried to learn as much as I could about just the general chamber world and all that before I even sat down with them. So I had a good idea at that point of, you know, what they were looking to do, and then hearing their vision and kind of talking with them more about vision was, you know, a big driver of it. And then you know, I mean, there was obviously the questions about me and, you know, that type of stuff, but you know, I think it was more of, hey, here's what we're trying to do, and here's what we'd like to see, and you know, I was like, okay, I like the vision, I like the mission with it. It's exciting. It's a challenge too, huge challenge. I mean, it's like a startup business basically. So, you know, it took a lot to be able to say, okay, I'll do it. You know, it took some time and some thought for sure, because it is a big risk, but it was a risk worth taking in my opinion. And I'm 100% glad I did it.